Good morning, everybody. My name is Alyssa Cooper, and this is Cooking in Quarantine. So today, I'm making a loaded potato soup. So I've gotten up, and I've already gotten my mire, carrots, celery, and onion, about a cup of each, and put that into a little butter and olive oil. But I also, because I'm going to load it, right, a loaded baked potato is going to have bacon crumbles, I took the little pieces of bacon fat that hadn't fully rendered, put that in the pan with the butter, the olive oil, put my veg in, and then I grated 4 cloves of garlic into this pan, and then added 4 cups of perfectly diced potatoes, and just covered it with chicken stock because that's what I had. If you prefer to use vegetable stock, absolutely go for it. But what really today is about is I get to use my new fancy Cuisinart because I like to have both smooth potato soup and a little bit of chunky as well. So what we got to do right now though is make a roux. And I have not made a roux live and in person ever before, but I have gotten my pot here, my big all-clad, very heavy bottomed pan, and I have gotten it warm with a low heat, because I don't want anything to happen too fast. We're going to be adding flour and milk to butter. And so those are things that you don't want to, I don't want my butter solids to brown too fast. And hello, who's out there? Hello, Denise. And here we go. So I'm going to break this chunk of butter. This is 1/3 cup of butter to 1/3 cup of flour, and also, and then we're going to add 2 cups of milk. I might need a little, I've made this a little smaller than the recipe called for because I just happen to have 4 cups of potatoes as opposed to 6 is the one that kind of, I don't really look at recipes except for to give me an idea of proportion so that I don't under or over flavor in any way. So while I'm waiting for this butter to melt, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm always afraid of having lumps. So one little thing is that I always put my flour into a little sieve so that as I'm mixing the flour and the butter together, that I don't ever have a clump of flour to go in here. So we are almost down to melted butter. And I wish I could turn and put the camera right here so that we could talk about doing this, because this is going to take a lot of my attention over the next few minutes. So I can get about half of my flour in there. And this is, again, a stirring constantly thing, right? I've got my whisk in here, and I'm stirring constantly, because you want that flour to incorporate without any lumps. And you also want the flour to get hot long enough to cook. If there's anything that's more disappointing to me than a bowl of lobster bisque that tastes like flour paste, like there's really nothing more, that's as disappointing. It's a waste of a lobster, it's a waste of all kinds of ingredients. And it bums me out, and all you had to do was wait just a few more minutes for your flour to cook up a little bit. So that's another reason I do it with the whisk, or with this sifter, is because it slows me down and forces me to incorporate a little bit at a time. There we go. This is thickening up nicely. And having a super heavy bottom pan, I don't really talk about this kind of stuff very much because I do believe in using what you've got. But if you are going to invest in things, having one good all-clad, one good Le Creuset, I really feel like is completely worth it. Because you need things that have that kind of heavy bottom that gives you the ability to be able to cook things at high heat and stuff. So this has just started to turn a foamy kind of pale, and now I'm going to start adding my milk, and I'm going to do the same thing that I've done all along. Very low heat because you don't want anything to curdle. And I should get the whole thing in here. So now I'm just going to give this a good mix. And give it a slow down. Now I want to get cheese and make macaroni and cheese since I'm already this far into macaroni and cheese. Oh, too funny. Let me give this a good mix. This needs some more mixture, mixing. Just until it's super smooth. Smooth is what you're looking for. And I did a little too heavy a pour that last time, so I'm paying for it and having to smooth a little more. Now I'll go there. It's a little easier there. Now that's nice. Excellent. So we're almost there. I've almost got this beautiful baby made. Excellent. Now, literally, if you were making macaroni and cheese, salt, pepper, most people would put a pinch of nutmeg in anything that's got a milky cream sauce. I've told you before, I'm one, like some people think cilantro tastes like soup. Nutmeg very often tastes like dish soap to me. So I would not add that to this, but several delicious cheeses, always Gruyere, I think, if you're making it. And then you'd be well on your way to making a beautiful mac and cheese. So now I'm going to take this off the heat. And I've already burned myself once today, so I'm going to try not to burn myself a second time. And pull my soup pot back up here to the front. I do have a little small pot back here of the garlic soup I made yesterday, and now that it's had a day to sit, I thought maybe it'd be fun to have a little sip of it at the end of the day. So here's what we're going to do next. And let's don't burn our hand. And this does not need any more heat, I don't think, because I'm just going to incorporate this in here. And here we go. So the recipe that I looked at suggests, hang on, there's still a little bit on the bottom of the pan I want to incorporate here. It's not quite all. There we go. So now I'm just going to pour a little of this right here into the middle and hope that some of my potato starts breaking up as I do this. Here we go. Look at that. That is going to be beautiful. So now this is still nice and chunky, and like I said, I prefer mine to be smooth. So I'm going to take probably 1/2 to 3/4 of this and put it into the food processor so that it's smooth with a little bit of chunk instead of chunky with a little bit of smooth. So, oh, happy day. I get to play with my toys. I guess I understand now a little bit about how boys are with cars and stuff, because I sure do have fun playing with my toys. It's just that mine are not usually quite as expensive as cars and such, right? So here we go. So I'm going to get this all smoothed around. Oh, look, I have potatoes trapped inside my thing. How will I ever get them out? So I think this also wants me to add sour cream. So I thought that what I would do is, as I'm smoothing out batches of this, I'm going to add that sour cream to it. So, and I think it was just like 1/2 cup of sour cream, and this is probably 1 cup of sour cream or 2 cups of sour cream. If only I knew how big this was. You would really think that it would tell me. Oh, here we go. Fantastic. Now I know how much it is. So, I'm going to put a few spoonfuls of sour cream into each one of my food processor spins. Here we go. Little yum yum. And then I'm going to take a plate so I don't drip all over the place as I do this. This looks so good, you guys. It's such a wonderful, yummy color. probably going to make a huge mess, but that's me. You've watched me make a mess now for the better part of a year, huh? Here we go. More. This is such a big food processor. I can do so much at once. It's so exciting. Oh. And let's see. Let's start here. Give this a pulse. I'm going to give this a little white first. Oh, I don't have this properly placed onto my. There we are. And I'm going to take this out because the heat is probably needs to escape. And there we are. Okay. Something's not all the way on. I'm learning. Oh, yeah. Just get high and let it play for a second. There's lots of beautiful stuff in there. Carrots and onions and garlic and potatoes. And then off some of the steam. Let's see what we have here. Oh, that's nice. And I'm going to pour this. Sorry, my wheels are making it hard for me to fight against this. There we go. Pour this in here. And it looks, oh, it's so beautiful and creamy. Oh, wow. Somewhere around here, I think I had anyway, I'll use this one. Amazing how in such a small kitchen I can still lose things. I say to myself every day, if I had a big house, I would waste my whole life trying to find things. Oh, goodness. So here we are. Then, put it on. And I'm going to do another batch. So nice. And then when it's time to serve this, and I always believe that if you can, it's best to leave soups for the next day because letting them rest, chill, come back up to temperature is so good for them. They just combines all the flavors so nicely. You're going to put a crumble of bacon, a few slices of scallion, and a little cheddar cheese shredded on top. I think that'll be absolutely. And then you have basically all of the pieces of a loaded baked potato, but in your bowl, right? And there's nothing more enjoyable than eating stuff with a spoon. So we'll just give this a little spin. I'm going to put this back into the big pot. Oh man, that looks great. Oh, that's what I've done with my spatula. The color and the texture of this soup makes me think of Duchess soup, which back a million years ago I worked in a restaurant called Au Cafe, and Billy Gallagher was the chef at the time, and he made the most amazing Duchess soup, and I have never made that, so that might have to go on my list of things to do now that I've shown that I can actually make a roux on camera and it's not like burning the bread for me. So I'm thrilled that I figured out how to do that. Preparation is key, right? So I'm going to hold on to the center and get this back in here. Excellent. And then we're going to have a little taste and see how it is. When I pulled a potato out of the pot earlier just to see if they were done, I may have taken the Lord's name in vain. It was so good. So all stirred up together, looks absolutely beautiful. And it really didn't take any meaningful time to make. So let's see here. And now the recipe does remind us that if you let it sit and you reheat it, that it might stiffen up because we put a roux in it. And you might need to add a little milk, a little stock, a little something to it to see, to get it back. Oh man. Oh baby, back to the right consistency. That's phenomenal. I do think it needs a tiny bit more salt and a tiny bit more pepper. And then I'm just going to let that rest for a little while because that's going to be remarkably delicious. Oh, baby. Oh, that's awesome. Let's see how yesterday's garlic soup is. Now this is a little thinner soup. Of course, this one that I've just made is thick like paste, right? And I mean that in a good way, not a bad way. So here's a little of this. So after we went off the air yesterday, I put my immersion blender in here to thin it all out. It did not require this big piece because it was much smaller pieces of stuff, right? The roasted garlic had basically disappeared by the time we finished cooking. And then I added a little, what was it, Parmesan? And a little whipping cream. And that's all. Oh man, that is great. So today's lunch will be garlic soup with a bologna sandwich because I haven't had one since the 70s probably. So delicious. So guys, as always, I thank all of you who came and stopped by and said hi for being here. You give me a reason to get out of bed and do something in the morning. You're keeping me sane in a time when New York is unlike it's ever been for the longest period of time. I heard something very interesting this morning, or read something interesting that I think bears mentioning before we pop off today, that because of pandemic, something like 85 or 850,000 jobs are going to, and I'll try to double check that before tomorrow, are going to be fast-tracked into oblivion because jobs like accountant can now be done by software. And I once sat, I've had lots of weird jobs in my life. I once was out on one of the piers as a proctor watching people take that CPA exam. It was 3 grueling days, and all I can think about today is, you've done the study to do that? That's like saying robots are going to take over your job as a doctor. I can't, so if you've done that kind of study only to be phased out of what's supposed to be important and highly valued work is really challenging. And so it brings me back to what I think is important to remember about me so that you can always understand where I'm coming from. Buckminster Fuller said that the job of human beings is to learn. And that the idea that we all have to go out and earn a living, do something, supervise people, supervising people who are making things that nobody needs, just because why? You've got to prove that you've worked hard enough to deserve to eat, to deserve a roof over your head. That is absolutely ridiculous. Really what should happen is that we should educate our people to the most that they can absorb so that they can take all of those pieces of information and make the world a better place. But because we make people go and make stupid whistles and shit for the dime store, we're wasting human capital. So that's my rant for today. And I love you all. I want you to all do something good for yourselves today. I want you to eat delicious food. I need for you to get some exercise, see the sunshine in your eyes, and then find something to do for somebody else. Tell somebody thank you. Tell somebody you love them. Take some food to somebody's house. That's the way you'll survive pandemic. I love you all. Ciao.